Hey, what's up, everybody? Today, I had an amazing conversation with the comedian Dan Cummins. He also is the host of a fantastic podcast called Timesuckin, and that's actually how I found Dan, was through his podcast. And he, interestingly enough, kind of inspired me to start this podcast, knowing that he was a local to this area, Coeur d'Alene, and just seeing how his podcast has progressed has just been inspiring. And so I thought at that time, I thought I should do this too, because I had always really wanted to start a podcast, but never, for some reason, thought that I could. And that's just wrong. So if you're thinking about starting a podcast, do it. There's no reason to not. And if you're thinking about doing anything else, do that too. And that's kind of what Dan and I talked about during this podcast. We talked a lot about science and religion and just kind of the same old yapping that you hear me talk about all the time, but with a really dope, different perspective. I just thought that our conversation was amazing. I really like Dan. He's such an awesome guy. He's super smart, super fun, hilarious. I can't say enough about him, but I think that you should just see for yourself. I'm going to stop talking now. But before I do, just definitely go check out the other podcast that we just started, Top Tier Underground. It's a bass music podcast, so if you're into bass music, you'll be into this. If you're not into bass music, I wouldn't recommend it. But it's pretty cool. We just talk about, it's basically a podcast for people that are into music and maybe music production. We interview music producers and talk to them about, how they started and their musical process, etc. I think that you'll enjoy it if you enjoy music. And just want to give a shout out to all the people that have been emailing us and following our Instagram and all that jazz. It's really cool. I love the support. And if you're not subscribed to us, just subscribe so that you can see future episodes. I'm really excited about one that is coming up. I can't really say much about it until I get it locked in, but he's also a podcaster who I really dig, and I will keep you informed. So, without any more blabbering from me, here is my podcast with Dan Cummins. Okay, what's up, everybody? I'm here with Dan Cummins, the Suckmaster, and I'm really excited to suck him because he's always sucking everybody else. So, what's up, man?
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming over. Yeah, thanks for meeting me here. Yeah, sorry I don't have the sound guy here to do it like we normally do.
No, it's all good, man. It's an honor to be at your spot.
Oh, thanks, man. It's become a special little place here.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about what got you into podcasting.
Yeah,
this has been a huge journey for you. It's like a career now.
Yeah. It's like it definitely has become like its own thing where, people didn't see all the projects that I kind of threw against the wall before Timesuckin, because most of them were just television or film kind of pitches and things that you spend a lot of time on, especially when I was down in LA working on like pitching this reality show, pitching this sitcom, pitching this prank show, pitching this movie,
right?
Whatever. And it's like all this these things I was doing, pitching animated shows. I've been pitching different shows to various networks for. I've been doing that for over a decade before Timesuckin, and then working on shows, sometimes in the background capacity that I wouldn't talk about in stand-up. So I was taking shots in a lot of different ways for a long time,
right?
And they either weren't fulfilling, or I've always been into my own projects. Like I never wanted to be a staff writer, for example, somebody who just makes a living consistently working on other people's shows. Some people love that. Some people love servicing someone else's idea.
Yeah,
and that's a very special skill that some people have, where they can figure out another person's voice and write for that voice or act for the voice of this character someone else has thought up, and they're really good at that. I've always been to a fault sometimes. I notice in like relationships where I have to constantly check myself against having that attitude of it's not a good idea unless I thought of it.
Right.
Like I can fall into that trap.
Yeah.
But with I tried a few podcasts before years ago that never really went anywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, one was called. I did. You know what? I didn't take them seriously. One was called. I think it was called. Oh man, it's terrible. I can't remember the names. One was called Angry Dan, and it was just me ranting, almost like a Monday morning Bill Burr style.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
And then one was called Naked and Fearless, which was me and two other guys. That would just the premise was revealing things we hadn't really talked about publicly with anybody else, like sharing our deepest, darkest secrets.
How long can that go for, though?
Exactly. And so we didn't really think it out, either, and did that for a little while. And it was interesting, but we didn't think about how to market it, none of that stuff.
Right.
And then I worked on a bunch of reality shows that I didn't care about before Timesuck, and then I was working at Playboy, another show that I didn't care about before Timesuck. But I had all this experience, like seeing how shows are produced, and I worked on a lot of first seasons.
Okay.
So I got to be part of the process where you're trying to figure out what the show's identity is. You're trying to figure out how to do it the best. I got to watch how these things were marketed, all of that stuff. And I did just think like, well, what if I applied the skills I had learned working for other people's shows and really took it seriously as a show of my own?
Yeah.
And then I met these guys in Florida, Tom and Dan, these guys that run their podcast, like truly run it like a very serious business. It's called A Mediocre Time with Tom and Dan.
Okay.
And it's more of a local Orlando podcast, but they have people all over the country, mostly who started in Florida.
Okay.
And it's they're two former morning radio guys. And man, like when I first went into their office, I was blown away with all the logos, all the fan art.
Like that's something that with your podcast, I've just admired too. I mean, because it's one thing to come out with creative logos and stuff like that, but it's another to have like something that has a theme and it's really consistent and it's very like, like you could come up with a picture of a Pegasus fucking a cat tomorrow and I would know it was yours, because it's got this certain like theme of the artwork. It's great. So.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah. Like I mean, Danger Brain came from the designers that do a lot of that came from Tom and Dan.
Yeah.
And then so I really gave it a different effort initially, and I approached this project different than any other project I'd approached before, where every other project I tried to sell, whatever kind it was, I had my idea when it started off, and then I either worked with a collaborator and I merged my idea into their idea, or I took the advice of either an agent or a manager or a producer, some network exec, and I ended up, changing my ideas based on theirs. So I ended up constantly kind of like, tweaking it, and just, and by the end, it wasn't really mine.
Right.
And with this one, I was like, you know what? There's no outside voices. I'm going to do exactly the show I want to do. And, with me at least, or if you're a really creative, artistic person, you're never going to put the energy into something unless it's 100% yours. Like it won't be the same with some other project. And I think that really was the big initial spark.
Yeah.
Was that's what I like. When I listen to a band, I tend to like, not always, but I tend to like their earlier albums.
Right.
Because before Danger Mouse or before Rick Rubin or somebody like big, not that, that music's great too, but a lot of times like the earlier stuff, like I can think of like Kings of Leon, Black Keys, had a very different sound the first couple albums than the last couple albums.
Right.
Because it was just them and it was raw and it was pure and it was like, this is what we fucking want to do. This.
Yeah. You don't have an exec.
No execs, no notes, no record label, nothing. And it's just, and that's how my stand-up, has always been, as far as the albums. It's like, this is, I've made concessions for like late night spots, but for the actual album, this is exactly how I want to do it. And, and then luckily people just, that doesn't guarantee that people will like it. But luckily it was that lightning in a bottle of, this is what I really like to do. And then the fans who heard it, they really liked it. And then it took on this weird life of its own. Yeah, this weird cult. But then people who were fans, as opposed to some random exec or something who doesn't know me, they started giving like the best constructive criticism.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, and the show morphed because of that. And I was like, oh, okay, longer's fine. All right, well, great. Yeah. Oh, okay, well, maybe I should move that to here, restructure this way. Oh, maybe I was saying too many announcements up front or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe I should, have a section of updates at the end. But all these different kind of things came from the fans.
Yeah. See, that's really cool that you're recognizing that too, because like the difference between a fan and executive is that an executive always like that they have like their own like ulterior motives.
Oh yeah, money.
Money and their idea. It's my idea.
Yep,
and,
ego.
And
Yeah.
So it's like all these outside reasons that are there to influence it, and they can really make a good thing turn into dog shit.
Absolutely.
Quick,
and I had seen that firsthand on these shows.
Right.
Too many cooks in the kitchen over and over again.
Yeah.
And and I just worked right before Timesuck. I worked for like 2.5, 3 years with this guy on this one TV pitch, and it got muddied and changed and twisted so many times that by the end, I'm trying to sell an idea that I don't even like anymore.
Right.
And I was like, so fucking and tired of that stuff. And at Playboy, the weirdest, like that was a very simple, basic, silly show I was doing.
Yeah.
But it was ridiculous, the amount of executive input on this show of no consequence that no one was even watching. but we had this one exec in particular who she just wanted to put her mark on everything.
Right.
And she was fucking terrible.
Yeah.
She was not an intelligent person. She had no sense of individuality or she didn't understand what was good and what worked.
Right.
And so we were constantly getting beat down with notes where we had to get rid of things or add things that everyone else knew were terrible.
Yeah.
But she was in charge.
Right.
And she got fired after I left, but like the show tanked, the show got canceled, and we all knew that was going to happen.
Yeah.
And so on this one I was like, I don't know, it's such a different thing, but you're right. It's like it was just this beautiful thing between me and the fans. Everyone else can fuck off. Mm-hmm. And it still is that.
Yeah.
And it's great. It's like, that's all I care about. Do I like it? Do the fans like it? Yes, on both those. Everybody else can fuck off.
Totally. That's what's up. I know that's like with our podcast, with this one. I've gotten some actually today I happened for some reason.
Yeah.
You know who Mick West is?
I don't.
Okay. So he is a debunker. Like he owns this website called Metabunk.
Okay.
And they go through and debunk conspiracy theories.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm sure that you've probably
come across in research.
I was going to say in research,
Yeah.
I'm sure you've come across it. It's
Yeah.
a very, very popular site. But I had him on, and we were just talking about conspiracies. I never, throughout the entire thing, once claimed to think that. Well, except for like flat Earth or something stupid like that.
Sure,
but
sure.
I never really claimed to think that something was true or false, right?
Right.
And then, I tend to think that 9/11 wasn't an inside job, and I tend to think
Right,
But I never was hard in the concrete with it, and now I'm just getting all these fucking funny ass comments on YouTube from people saying that I'm a paid opposition.
Oh yeah, man, that's great.
And what's crazy about it is that these people that are saying this kind of stuff, okay, for example, one of the guys commented on it. He said, you should look at his smirk when he talks about evolution. I wanted to see what he was talking about. So it was me that was talking about evolution.
Yeah.
And I was just really excited because I think evolution is the coolest thing in the world.
Sure.
It's something that gets me truly excited.
Yeah, it's amazing what a species can do.
Oh my God, it's so cool.
Right.
And so it's evolution gets me really excited.
Yep.
I could fucking just go on for hours.
Yeah.
And so I was just thinking man, it must be so strange to be deluded to the point where you're going out and seeking things to attack people on. And
right.
So I was
conspiracy mind, man. It's a powerful thing. It's tied to religious mind.
Absolutely,
and things different where it's and I have a lot of religious listeners, and I'm not anti-religious. Mm-hmm. However, you just have to understand.
I'm teetering on anti-religious. I'm sure all the fans know that.
You just I've just looked at it okay, everybody has the right to believe what they want to believe, but if you choose to believe something that departs from science and reason,
right,
then
something that's outside of nature,
something that's outside of nature, you can't. Yeah, exactly. Supernatural. The same way, I look at someone who has a strong religious belief the same way I look at someone who really believes in ghosts
or witches
or really believes in cryptozoological creatures or whatever. It's okay. You can believe that, and I don't think it means you're a terrible person. I don't think it means you're an idiot. I don't think it means you're intellectually inferior. But you are choosing to believe in something you cannot scientifically, empirically prove to anyone else.
Right.
So I think if you're going to be like that, be aware that you just look like an asshole. If you're well, if you don't get it, you're just stupid. It's no, man. They just you're demanding that people believe what is impossible to prove.
Right. And so to bring that full circle, because what I kind of got us off on a tangent for a second, but what I was going to say is like, it's really easy to be susceptible to like worrying about criticism from fans.
Yeah.
And the first one that the Flat Earth episode, I got a shitload of flack on, but I didn't care.
Right.
But some of them where I talked about, for example, I was talking about universal basic income on a podcast.
Talking about what?
Universal basic income.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And I personally like have my own opinions on it. Basically, I don't think it's a great idea in the United States. It could work other places, but we spend way too much money on the military and all these things, right? So, I was kind of vocal about that, and I got a lot of criticism from people I know, from people I don't know, hundreds of emails, which is like crazy to me, and so I was like, man, should I not have said that, And then I kind of, the next episode, I came back and I said, hey, just so you guys know, fuck off. I still think this. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's like, I'm not opposed to it. And that was something that I made clear in both, right? But it was like, and
I think it's okay to have those hard opinions, though, too, especially when you've thought them out.
Right.
Because that's all I ask of my listeners. I'm like, if you don't like something that I've said, that's fine. If you think I'm wrong, that's fine. But then send me the links that lead me to the place to prove that you're right. And if you can't do that, then you're part of the problem.
And don't send me a link that's like ascensionlightbeing.com or some shit.
.quartz. Fucking wackadoodle. It's like, send me a legitimate link to real research. Send me to Gallup or Pew or somebody who's legitimate, like a think tank, a nonpartisan. But what's crazy is, like, I just did a TEDx talk about this very concept. If people have lost... And this is, I'm stealing from somebody else's, a professor out in Indiana. I can't remember his name right now, but he's the one who introduced me to this thought, where we live in a technological world, 21st century technological world. But for many of us, our minds are still medieval. Our minds haven't caught up with the technological advances.
Right.
And so people still have like that same brain that in the 15th century is like, there's a witch in that forest, be careful. They're still thinking the exact same way.
Yeah.
And they don't have good critical thinking skills, and they don't have a lot of people. I mean, I talk about this in my act right now, and it could be very polarizing and very, I'm sure it's going to piss a lot of people off. But I talk about the bell curve,
right?
Where we've taken tolerance too far in society, and this comes to like criticism and opinions, where some people subscribe to this notion that everybody's opinion is valid and every voice deserves to be heard.
Yeah.
I don't believe that at all.
Me neither.
I believe in the bell curve.
Huge criticism. I think that criticism is the most important. I talk about this all the time on the podcast, so I'm sure listeners are probably like, oh, shut up. But like, criticism of bad ideas is the most important thing, especially right now.
Oh, yes. You have to be intolerant, towards intolerance, essentially. I
mean, for people to say that, like religion, for example, should be left off the table. I mean, that's like the worst idea in the world, because I would say, like, I don't know, say that there's 90% of people that believe in crazy shit.
Right.
So if there's 90% of people that believe in crazy shit, I'm totally making this up, but I'd go off on a limb and say at least half of those people have never thought about why they believe in those crazy things.
Absolutely. They've analyzed. Yeah. Right. They believe because their family does, their friends do, or that's how they were raised, or it feels good.
They've never even broken out. I was like, ironically enough, fortunate enough to go to a Christian school. I grew up in Christian school. So for me, I mean, it was almost like I think what happens is people go to church every Sunday and they hear the good sermon.
Right.
And then they don't really think about it much after that. But like for me, it was my life 5 days a week. Right. So I was really immersed into this.
Yeah.
And I'm like reading the Bible. I'm reading the good parts, the bad parts, the crazy parts,
Leviticus.
The flood. Yeah. Leviticus, all these Exodus and all these crazy fucking things. And I'm asking these people, and I mean, like I said, I grew up in this. So it's like for me to like, I'm like, a boat with, and you guys don't believe in evolution, right? Right. So a boat, and there's no evolution. This boat had, 30 million land species times 2. You know what I mean?
Sure. Exactly. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And then it's like, if you're questioning that, you're ruining your faith. And so by the time I was 15, I was like atheist. I read Richard Dawkins. I was like atheist.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So I don't even know how we got, this is why I love podcasts too, because you get off on these crazy tangents. But,
and my thing on that, I don't have a problem, like if you want to believe something, because I also look at it like I also can't disprove your God. I can't.
Yeah.
There's evolutionary evidence, but you can go into a big wormhole about the domino effect theory and different things that lead but why did the Big Bang happen? What is before the Big Bang?
Yeah.
You can go down that wormhole
Cosmological
tool.
arguments.
Right.
I don't know if have you ever heard of the cosmological argument?
No.
Okay. It's just I think that this is the last hope for religion. Basically,
Okay.
It's a lot of like philosophers and stuff. Well,
Yeah.
in philosophy, there's a lot of there's like fallacious arguments, and then there's like reason arguments, and the cosmological argument is basically you set up a syllogism, and then the premises, if the premises are true, then the result is true, and that's kind of like what a common thing in philosophy is. So the last resort is the cosmological argument, which is everything that begins has a cause. Right.
The
The universe began.
Yep.
According to the Big Bang. I mean, and that's never mind. So the universe began.
Yeah.
I was going to say that's debatable, but
Sure.
Yeah. So the universe began, which means the universe has a cause. Anything that has a cause is caused by something.
Right.
It must have been immaterial, because when the universe began, material began.
Right.
So if it was immaterial, that means that it must have been a intelligent, supernatural.
Yeah. That's the domino thing too.
Yeah. So this is
you can't go.
And so it's like and this is like the last ditch effort, I think, for a good argument in religion. But it's basically like you can't, according to these guys, you can't prove this wrong, because every part of the argument is true, which means the ending is true.
Right.
But you have to presuppose that first of all, you have to presuppose that the universe began. We don't really know for sure if it actually began, or if it's a cycle. We don't know enough about this yet.
Sure.
Obviously, nobody does, which is why it's important to just be,
Yeah, I think it's like important to be open-minded, where it's like, if you have your God and that's what you believe, that's great. Just don't. I just don't want it in government.
Absolutely,
I just don't want you legislating, because
not in schools.
Salem witch trials is a great example. That's a topic. It's like that's why I don't want religion in government. Where it's like I don't want to be in a court where it's like, well, God thinks you're guilty, and in my head I'm like, you don't know what the fuck God's thinking about anything. It's like you're just manipulating. But yeah.
Well, so let's kind of back up. And you grew up in Riggins, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I've spent a lot of time in Riggins. I used to whitewater raft there and stuff. And so it was really shocking when I first came across Timesuck, and you were talking about these ideas and kind of like, I don't know if you personally claim to be an atheist or what, but
I'm like agnostic.
Well, I think atheist, atheist is just non-theism, so you don't believe in theism. But I know a lot of people draw that. I know
you get all the semantics.
Lines. I know a lot of people draw that hard line there with agnostic and atheism, but Gnostic is and I'm just going to say this for listeners, because a lot of times, when people ask me if I'm religious and I say I'm an atheist, they're like, agnostic is a statement about knowledge. So, and that's actually where the term Gnostic comes from, is knowledge. Yeah. And so,
a Greek term.
Yeah. So,
I have that on my back written.
Really? That's cool. So, so with atheism, you can be an agnostic atheist, which is, I don't think there's a God.
Sure.
But I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
Or you can be an agnostic Christian, which is, I think there's a God, but I'm not sure. Or you can be a Gnostic Christian, which is, I know there's a God. Or a Gnostic atheist, which is, I know there's not a God.
So
I would say that we're probably both agnostic, right?
Yeah, I mean, mine is like, I'm getting a whole sleeve right now based on this, but it's like this phrase, embrace the darkness.
Sure.
And I'm having all this various pagan, Judaism, Islam, all these symbols put on there. But to me, it's about nobody knows for sure, conclusively, 100% science. You can't know that way.
Right.
So my thing is, why worry about it? Whatever's going to happen is going to happen. Just be the best person you can be.
Yeah.
Have the best morals you can be here. Embrace the darkness in the sense that just embrace not knowing.
Sure.
Be okay with not knowing, because until some being shows up on Earth and live broadcast to everybody at the same time. Hey, everybody! I am definitely God. Check out this magic trick. It's like then I'm like, all right, got it.
Yeah.
But until that happens, nobody knows for sure.
I know, it's kind of like I with my family's really religious, so sometimes we've talked about it, and they're like, Jesus, whatever, Jesus, he was a real thing and whatever. And I'm like, okay, if Jesus was resurrected. Right. Why isn't he still here just telling everybody,
hey guys,
hey, so it really did happen 2,000 years ago.
Right.
I'm here. and let's hang out, play some cards. I'll do a trick for you, you know?
Yeah, I know. I think the same thing. It's like, why did this stuff have to happen? But anyway.
Yeah, so this is like way down the road.
Talk about it forever.
Yeah, way down in the weeds. But I want to talk to you. So you grew up in Riggins.
Yeah.
What caused you to move from Riggins, and what how was your childhood and like your teen years in Riggins like fitting in? Were you kind of always a skeptic and
teenage. Yeah, I was. I mean, I was all over the place. Teenage. I lived in Las Vegas randomly for 2 years of high school, freshman and sophomore year of high school. I left Riggins to go live with my dad after 8th grade, and then randomly he moved back to Riggins my junior year of high school, right before. So I bounced out for 2 years, and then Riggins, 2 more years. But I had like this weird fractured kind of family dynamic where my mom's side was pretty atheist.
Okay.
My certain members of my mom's side pretty aggressively, like very like anti-religion. You know.
Yeah. And this is in Riggins.
And this is in Riggins.
Wow.
Very much where there's a strong religious presence.
That must have really stuck out.
Well, my great grandpa John, he just came from Sweden over to America.
Oh, okay. That actually, I think that explains a lot.
And he went to work at the sawmill. I mean, he was respected as a hard worker, but he had no use for religion.
Yeah.
To the point that there was like a family legend where some I think it was Seventh-day Adventist or somebody came to the door, like Jehovah's Witness perhaps, doing some missionary work, greets them with a shotgun in hand, tells them to get the fuck off his property, and tells them that to their face that Jesus was the greatest imposter who ever lived. Like he had no use for it.
Word.
Yeah, but this was also a very gentle guy that birds would literally land on his hands.
Wow.
He would feed birds. I mean, he felt that it was a con.
Yeah.
He felt that religion was just manipulation, like very Karl Marx kind of view of that stuff. Had no use for it. Gentle, great, loving guy, and but so I had that kind of influence on that side of the family. And then, my grandpa, which was his son-in-law, he went to church one time in his 20s. The pastor kind of singled him out and said well, some people are just here for the holidays. And some people, and he was like, really? And then he just got up mid-sermon, Betty, his wife, let's go.
Oh my gosh.
And then just sent the guy a death glare and then just walked out and has never been back. So there's those family members.
Yeah.
And then on my dad's side, my grandfather was Pentecostal minister. So I was exposed to Pentecostal Christianity also. And then my town had a mix. So I would end up going to church functions, Assembly of God, community churches, because that's where my friends would go. And so I was always being pulled, by this friend, and then in high school dated this girl, and I would go to their church for a while and kind of give it a go. But I was always very inquisitive. Mm-hmm. And I actually got permanently banned from a youth group in junior high because I wouldn't stop asking questions.
Me too.
Literally, they built a rule because of me, because I was getting kicked out basically every week. And to be honest, I was making it a game. Yeah. I was doing it to be antagonistic after a while. However, I did make sure, even as a little kid, that all my questions were legitimate.
Yeah.
So like this lady, Mrs. Cook, who was the leader, I remember she would say stuff like, and you have to go. She'd be explaining things, and you have to take Jesus as your savior to get to heaven. And I would just be like, okay, but what about people in Asia who never got to hear about the gospel of Christ? Well, I'm sure that, but do they? But do they have a chance? And but what about Buddhists? Yeah, what if they don't?
Yeah.
What about Buddhists? What if they live a great life, and then some Christian who does take Jesus into their heart is a bad person?
Yeah.
Why would that person get to go to heaven? And she's like, I don't listen. She just was pre-programmed of here's the speech I'm trying to give you. I only know these words. And she would just get flustered and be like, stop asking so many questions. Yeah. And I'd be like, well, these are important questions. Just get out. If you're going to be like that, just get out.
That's crazy. I mean.
And she later, not that this would happen every time, her husband basically tried to form his own weird Christian cult kind of thing.
Oh my goodness.
And took on a second wife and gave her a sister wife and got fired from being a superintendent. It was in the papers down in Horseshoe Bend, Idaho, years later.
Oh my gosh.
So this lady who couldn't handle my questions, her life blew up in her face because she didn't ask the right questions.
Wow.
And just blindly followed her zealot husband.
That's my wife is from Horseshoe Bend. That's
really?
Yeah, but
Mr. Cook, John Cook.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that because Horseshoe Bend's right north of Boise, right?
Yep. Yeah.
I'm almost positive it was Horseshoe Bend. His name was John Cook.
Cool. I'll have to run that by her.
And he was either the principal or superintendent. And I just remember, years after leaving high school myself, getting I think it was from my grandma, sent me the newspaper clipping. And I was like, son of a bitch. those weirdos who are trying to. But anyway, so it's I'm raised in that mix. And I just became very skeptical, very inquisitive. And then it really changed with my first love, right after end of senior year in high school. dated this girl from Marcy, Idaho, who was Mormon. And I fell for her hard. It was like I was her first, like that kind of thing. But she wanted me to become Mormon. Her whole family was Mormon, and that was what was important to her for us to continue our relationship. So I made this like deal. I'm like, okay, well, I'll look into it. But here's the thing. But if I find out, and I'd heard, I don't know, a pamphlet or something about like some weird racist stuff and some weird problems with Mormonism. And I'm like, if these things are true, will you leave your church to come to me? And she was like, yes. And so then I did a lot of research in their books, and I found a lot of problems in the Book of the Mormon, you know, like basically things that there's no archaeological evidence for the Nephites and Levites having this big battle supposedly in the Americas. Because the story basically there is that some people came over from the Middle East right after the time of Jesus, or actually I think it was right around the time of Jesus.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and they came to America, founded these huge civilizations that ended up getting in a huge war.
Yeah.
And there's no evidence of any of this.
Yeah.
And there's the problem where, like, you know, until the 70s, black Mormons weren't allowed to go to the highest portion of Mormon heaven in the sense that they got to be gods. They were allowed to be servants to the white gods. Because, you know, the Mormon theology is, as God is, man will be, as man is, God was. It's some variation of that quote.
Sure.
And what it means is, if you're a good Mormon and you go to heaven, you get to have your own planet and be God of your own solar system and produce spirit babies with your wife to populate and create souls for your new planet. Like, you get to be God.
Right, yeah.
And, you know, and that stuff just didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
It didn't, you know, I went to the Mormon church for a while, went to the meetings, heard this stuff from their people. And I remember one time asking a guy, an elder, I was like, yeah, but what about this specifically? And he's like, I'll just tell you what I tell my wife. Sometimes when you can't understand things, you just have to have faith. And that never worked for me. From an early age, David Cross had a great bit, a comic. I really like a lot of his stuff. He talked about, you know, being in the Jewish church. I think it was he was talking about, you know, like in temple. And he just said when he was a little kid, you know, he's looking around and everybody's like, what? Oh, awesome. And hearing about like all these old battles. And he said in his mind, he was just looking around going, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah.
What is this, Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah.
and that is always the internal reaction I've had. And I fought against it for a while. And now I'm really just at peace with, in a different way. I went through a period of being angry towards other religious people. Like, why can't you wake up?
Yeah.
Kind of attitude. Now I've moved on past that. I'm like, man, if that makes you a better person, I don't have all the fucking answers. Maybe you are right.
Yeah.
But this is me.
Yeah.
This is what makes me a good person, and this is where I'm at.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I definitely went through a militant type era in my life where I was very like trying to wake people up, you know what I mean? And it was just like really causing me a lot of problems because it was making me like really frustrated with humanity essentially. And it's just like, for me, it's like, so I really, really like neuroscience. I love neuroscience. So for me, I can like, I've taken all these like behavioral biology classes and neuroscience classes and all this shit. So like for me, like when I look at it objectively, like I totally understand why people do this. Yeah. You know? Yeah. It's just like, I just think that once you're given enough evidence and like someone explains to you why you're eating this crazy apple, you know, like I think that there should be a point where you are like, oh shit, and snap out of it. And that caused me a lot of problems. Frustration, yeah. But I'm with you on this. I think the main problem that I have with and I'm not saying that this is how you feel at all, but the reason why I do think it's important to still like talk about it and not be a cynic and not being be an asshole about it to somebody, but still like explain why it doesn't make sense and stuff, is because what I fear is that something like Islam will take control of like, I mean, you know, like Iran used to be a really cool place. Like it wasn't like this. Yeah. And I'm not trying to say that was there's an immensely intellectual civilization. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of, and the thing is like Christianity is at this point now where it's like, you know, some Christians believe in a young earth creation. Some Christians believe in this. Some people don't believe Jesus was resurrected. They just think that God's cool and whatever and makes them better. Sure. And then, you know, there's obviously the crazy ones that like want to take over the world, you know. Yeah. But the thing is like Islam, I just don't think has like come to that point in their religion. I don't know if they ever will.
Right.
Where they can like move past it, you know? And it's like we're getting to this point now where when you say things like what we're talking about, everybody pulls back and all of a sudden you're a racist and all these things. And
that's not logical.
It's not. And it's really unfortunate because I think that like, you know, although I'm probably a little bit more left leaning than right leaning. I just think that right now, like the left movement in this country is silencing like good conversation.
Yes. I agree. No, that's like the theme of my new stand-up hour.
Oh, really?
That I've been working on now is this thing about we've become too tolerant to like that's the thing I was mentioned earlier, this bell curve notion where people are so afraid of you being mean. But I'm like, I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm going to be logical. And I've given up worrying about, I don't care about who I offend with this now because I think the message is important. Where it's like, you know, if you look at the bell curve for any given area of intelligence, you are naturally going to have most people around the average area of intelligence for that arena, whether it's scientific intelligence or, you know, mathematic or emotional or, you know, like reading comprehension, whatever, you know, including like, you know, kind of understanding of just what is best for society. There's going to be some people who are far better at that, just like there's some people who are much faster athletes. You know, in the bell curve, most of us are average, you know, as far as in terms of speed.
Right.
And I'm like, there's a lot of people in the bottom half.
Yeah.
You know, almost half of society is in the bottom half.
Right.
Their ideas don't fucking matter as much as the top of the bell curve. And the message I'm trying to get is there's a small fraction, the upper 1% of the intellectual elite who are capable of pushing things forward. They're the people creating the new smartphones. They're the people creating
electric
the
cars
SpaceX and electric cars. The rest of our jobs is to shut the fuck up and stay out of their way and let the smart people, you know, move things forward. But there's this weird culture where it's like it used to be teachers, doctors, other people respected their expertise. Understood that they knew more about certain arenas and would defer to their knowledge. Now it's different. Now because of the internet, some guy who's gone to school for 17 years, someone will see him and be like, I hear what you're saying, but I just watch these YouTube videos.
I know. And it's crazy because it's like people
insane.
are losing like
people
faith.
are dying because of this ignorance. Literally
like,
dying.
People are like literally saying that science is a lie. Scientists are liars. They're pushing an agenda. They're doing all these things like it's some sort of fucking cult. You know what I mean? And it's like like there's for example, I mean like with flat Earth. I'll just use that one as an example. This is a growing movement. And these people are using the same tactics that religion uses in a way where it's like, well, can you prove it? Well, okay, what can I do to prove it? Okay, I'm going to show you this, and this. Well, the only way I'm going to believe it is if I fly out onto a spaceship.
Right.
And I'm like, but even then, would you really?
Nope.
Or would
There's
you
a documentary about that exact phenomena.
Oh, really?
The person said that if they were taken into space with their own eyes looking at around Earth, they would still not believe because they would know that they weren't in space, that they'd been drugged and made to think that they'd been taken to space.
Well, yeah, because once you get on this fucking like train, it's like okay, so I have a theory about this. And I don't know if you listened to the thing with Dr. Stephen Novella, but I have a theory on this, like what I think is causing people to do this. Okay, I think that first of all, it's really easy to spread information. Obviously, we just talked about that. But I think that the big thing here is that with all of the information that's coming out and all the science that's coming out and understanding that's coming out, people are basically at this point of like they kind of have to choose on ditching religion. You know what I mean? And I don't even mean like higher power religion. I mean like God fundamentalism, right?
Sure.
Like actually believing the Bible. Is what I'm saying. Like obviously you can think that there's like eternal energy or whatever, but that that can never really be rationally disproved. Or
you're talking about literalists,
right? So the thing with religion is like where we're at is like people are realizing that they basically need to ditch the Bible and come into the light, or they need to find a way to say that everything else is wrong and the Bible's right. And like what's going on with like flat Earth is if you can believe, and people will make themselves believe this, but if you can believe that the scientists, that the same people that taught you evolution, the same people that taught you, all of this thing can fake the sphere, the Earth being a sphere.
Right.
If
they can fake everything.
Then they can fake everything. And then all of a sudden, if everything's a lie, the
Yeah.
last thing left to believe in is God.
Right,
It gives you
right.
hope that
Yeah.
there's a creator and that there's this, like everybody else is, everybody else is lying to you, but you know the truth.
Right.
And it gives you this like sense of authority. And the problem with like, I'm glad YouTube just announced that they're going to, I don't know if you saw that.
Yeah.
but-
They're gonna stop. They're gonna make it harder to promote like basically idiotic videos.
Right.
you know?
And I think that's great because like as soon as you click on something like chemtrails or something, all of a sudden your whole news feed populates with all these crazy fucking conspiracies.
Right.
And they're very convincing.
Well, yes, they are. In the internet, like I do believe where, and I was joking about this last year with stand up, but prior to the internet, there was always a small group of people who had weird ideas, who didn't do well in school, who didn't understand concepts and would get easily manipulated into kind of thinking crazy thoughts.
Yeah.
There weren't very many of those people, and they frankly weren't smart enough to find other like-minded people and congregate and strengthen their ideals together. It was hard to do so.
Yeah.
Is this, weird person at this job and this weird person in this family had these crazy notions. The rest of their family would be like, what the fuck are you talking about, Greg? And it would kind of go away.
Yeah.
The internet has changed that entirely.
Yeah.
Where now these people that used to be in these dark little corners, they've realized there's millions of other people susceptible to the same things. And it's that strength in numbers, and they just reconfirm their own terrible ideas.
Yeah, like the white nationalists and stuff.
And all this stuff starts building momentum. And like the anti-vaxxers, I mean, I have a harsh commentary on them right now where it's like, that the whole notion that like, I watched a video on YouTube about how if you get your kid vaccinated, they get autism. And it's like, no, motherfucker, they don't.
Yeah.
There's no scientific link.
There's no scientific link. There's people that have gone to school for fucking 12 years.
Yep.
And all they do is sit in a lab and watch fucking molecules change. That's all they do. They sit 40 hours a week while you're fucking making burgers or whatever you're doing for 40 hours a week. They are in a lab. And they're watching bacteria. I mean, that's like what they're doing with their time.
But this other person, but Jenny McCarthy said, Jenny McCarthy never went to fucking college. Jenny McCarthy is the fucking singled out lady showing her tits all the time on a beach. And that's who you fucking want to believe?
That's who you want to believe. Yeah,
right.
And that's so that the problem with this is that it gives authority to people that shouldn't have it.
Exactly.
And it takes the authority away from the people that should, because there's like, a really well-made YouTube video by like Eric, whatever his name is, flat earther guy, Dubay, Eric Dubay. So Eric Dubay can make a video about the earth being flat, and he can say things about, when you rise, it always rises to eye level, which isn't true.
Right, it sounds true.
But it sounds true, and people don't really know how to test it, so they're just like, okay. So
David Icke is a guy like this too.
Oh yeah, totally. So I touched on this when before we started recording. But I had a flat earther that was working at our cabinet shop.
Okay.
And like it was really funny because we had like my old best friend that I've known for 20 years working there. Yeah. And he decided to go back working for his dad. So when he was leaving, he's like, I bet the next guy that you're going to hire is going to be a flat earther Christian, right? And I was like, get the fuck out of here. And all of a sudden this guy comes in, and then like my boss's neighbor, coincidentally enough, is also a flat earther. So there's two in this city.
Jesus Christ,
and he came in and started going off about like like all these conspiracies and stuff. And I'm just like, entertaining him because I enjoy watching people go down the rabbit hole.
Sure.
And then he leaves, and I was like, okay, so he's a flat earther, and I was like telling the new guy, and he's like, well, I mean, it's not like they can prove that the earth is round. And then I was like, oh no. And so, but he starts telling me about this, like one of the facts, right? And one of the facts is that you can see that the moon has colder light coming off of it than the sun, right? And I mean, if you know how electromagnetism works, that doesn't like make sense at all, because anything that is transferring energy has to be at a hotter temperature than something that's not, right?
Okay.
So he was saying that if you shine a infrared laser into the moonlight versus into the shadow light, that proves that the moon is casting a cold energy. And so I'm like, this is bullshit. And I'm telling him, I was like, look, I haven't looked into this at all, but I'm telling you right now, that's not true. And I was like explaining to him that if the atoms are receiving energy from something, it doesn't matter what it is, they will by definition be accumulating heat. Like that's what they are doing,
Yeah.
And so I was like trying to explain it to him with science. And then I was like, but you know what? This is the great thing about science. Let's test it. I have an infrared fucking I had like an infrared thermometer with us, like at
Funny.
the shop, at
Yeah.
our shop. So I go and it was like during the solstice time basically. So it was like dark still at 6:37.
Yeah.
And so I take him out there and I proved it to him right there. And he's like, are you sure that thermometer's
Sure.
accurate?
Cognitive dissonance.
Right.
He wants
And
to
so
know.
I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, but this is the thing. When you're coming to me with these theories,
Right.
we can test them.
Right.
And if we can't test them, there are experts in the field that can test them.
Yep.
And so when you're just tossing this out.
Ships coming into the harbor is the big one for flat Earth to me.
Yeah.
They rise into view.
Right.
Why do they rise into view? It's the same as having an ant on an orange.
Yes.
When he comes up around the curve, he
Yeah.
rises into view.
Well-
if the Earth was flat, you could get a telescope, and if the telescope was powerful enough, you could see fucking people in their apartment in Honolulu.
That's what I
Right?
said the same thing, except I said Japan, but
Yeah.
but it's same. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is then they say, well, like the atmosphere is thick and that's why you can't see it. And I'm
Right,
like,
atmospheric tricks. Yeah, they do a lot.
Yeah.
I in December, I went down to LA and interviewed a bunch of flat earthers from the Flat Earth Society.
what? Really?
Yeah, because we
You
were.
did?
Yeah, we're talking like earlier. I can't remember if this is off recording or during recording, but I've worked on so many projects.
Yeah, I think that you did.
Oh, I think we recorded.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so many projects that people don't hear about. Well, like in the background, it's like there was a project I was working with this last year, which we'll pitch it and see if anybody wants to buy it. But it's just a conspiracy challenge show.
That's
where
awesome.
where it's me going into a weird environment. This was the pilot thing we did. It's like flat Earth.
Yeah.
I met with a NASA employee who has worked on the Mars rover and different things. Has
Wow.
worked on several mechanisms that have made it to either the moon or Mars.
Yeah.
And it's
That's
like,
so
and I
cool.
talked to some a Columbia physics professor and all these different people, and then also met with a bunch of flat Earth people.
Right.
And right away, it's like just the body language, everything. Like the people who know the professors, the
Right.
propulsion engineers.
Yeah.
They just have this. Oh fuck, here we go. But it's like, okay, well, there's a lot of math, there's a lot of equations that show it's like the Earth's rotation. The moon wouldn't come across the sky like it does. The sun wouldn't come across. On and on and on of all these things that you can prove. You could go do this in the field. You could do this experiment. You could do that. Whereas you talk with the flat earthers, well, I mean, it's obvious.
Does
obvious,
it feel
man.
like it's a round sphere that you're on?
Yeah, and then I got into this weird conversation with one guy that shows how their brains work.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Well, it's all subjective, I guess, isn't it?" I'm like, "Well, no, that's
No.
not, science isn't
Yeah.
subjective." And I'm like, dude, it is very objective. Some of these
By
things.
definition,
By
it's
definition.
objective.
Well, and the thing, it was crazy. I go like math. I'm like 2 + 2 is always 4, and he goes not necessarily, and I go no, fucking always. 2 things added to 2 things are always 4 fucking things. And he's like, well, that's your opinion. But it's like, that's arguing with somebody
Yeah.
who is a flat earth believer, whatever like that, is the same as arguing with the religious, but you can't change their mind.
Right.
But I have taken a different attitude where I'm like, we are on the cusp of great things in society. We are on the cusp of colonizing Mars. We are on the cusp of digital immortality, essentially. We are on the cusp of, 3D printable, usable biological organs. But we're not going to get all those things, or we're definitely not going to get them as quick
Yeah.
if the idiot horde is holding us back.
Well,
and
and-
I have a harsh view on that,
Yeah.
where it's like, it doesn't make sense anymore for the bottom of the bell curve to be contributing.
I agree.
In a very harsh way to say this, you used to need a lot of peasants to work the farms and to work the factories.
Mm-hmm.
Things are getting automated. Sorry, get fucking smart or fucking die.
Yeah.
Be done. Because
Yeah.
I watched the movie Idiocracy,
Yeah.
and I think it's not funny to me anymore.
It's not funny.
Because
Yeah.
we're moving towards that.
Yeah.
And it's like, you want to have your crazy ideas? Maybe we should give you a fucking island
Yeah.
where you can go and you
Maybe
can
you
make
should
up
try
whatever weird
colonizing
shit you
Mars.
want.
Maybe we should
Right.
have them colonize
They
Mars.
could be the color, but it's just like the vaccination
Yeah.
things. Those ideas are so dangerous, and
They
these
are,
people
yeah.
are making life so unnecessarily dangerous. Where the vaccination thing, if we stop vaccinating kids, there's not going to be a drop in autism. There's going to be a tremendous rise in lethal diseases,
Yeah.
diseases that we already beat that'll come roaring back.
Right, yeah.
It's like, okay, your non-autistic kid now has fucking leg braces and measles scars on his face,
Yeah.
and is coughing up a lung from TB.
Yeah.
Good job.
Good job.
Great job. Stop listening to doctors.
And this is kind of why I was saying earlier, like, I don't want to be like an asshole and stuff like that when it comes to talking to people about religion or whatever it is. It
Right.
doesn't need to be religion. But the thing is knowledge is so important.
Yeah.
And knowledge is like, we have to have trust in
Yep.
certain people.
Yep.
Right. And so, but the reason that knowledge is important is because once you understand like just neurobiology, okay?
Right.
Like how the brain works, why there's people that have these crazy fucking beliefs, and why, like once you understand what humans are, like our evolution, like how
Right.
we became white and black, how we became
Yeah.
whatever, right? Gender differences, things like that. Like once you actually understand it, it's
Yeah.
going to be really difficult to continue bombing each other. It's going to be
Right,
difficult to
right.
continue the nuclear, you know what I mean? Like the
Yeah,
nuclear
yeah.
arms race. All of these things will start to drop away because if you actually know
Right.
what the differences are between people, which ain't shit.
Right,
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
That's my whole theme on Timesuck is meat sacks. We're
Yeah.
all meat sacks.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that quest for critical thinking and knowledge. That's the whole thrust of my show is like knowledge is power.
Yeah.
The more we learn about history, the more we learn about all these events, the better decisions we'll make,
Yeah.
the more logical we'll be. Because you're right.
Yeah.
You know, if everyone was logical, we could all agree to like, oh, okay, there
Yeah.
should be sterilization after 2 kids.
Yeah.
Oh, there should be
Yes.
this. That'll
Yes,
make life
dude.
better.
Exactly,
Logical decisions will make life better for everybody.
Yeah.
There'll be more medicine for everybody.
Yeah.
There'll be a higher quality of living. It's all paranoia and fear and weird, pseudoscience thinking
Yeah.
and crazy ideas that can't be proven that people just won't let go of.
Right.
All of that bullshit is what fucks up the world for human beings.
Yeah, and when you think about
Yeah.
like the fact that we are here because of some fucking crazy ass accident possibly,
Right.
and we are like the earth has somehow accumulated and ended up in this Goldilocks zone, and we're like some of the only living things that we are the only living
Yeah.
things that we know of in the universe. No, I'm
Right.
sure there's tons, but we're the only things that we know of in the universe. And there's just like in our galaxy alone, there's like 20 billion Earth-like planets, but we are the ones
Yeah.
that have intelligent life right
Right,
now, right?
right.
And so all of this is so unlikely. And there,
Yeah.
you look out in the universe and you see nothing but dead planets and
Right,
nothing. You know what I mean?
right.
And so it's like when you see the opportunity that we have,
Yeah.
we are, as far as we know,
Right.
the only people that have this opportunity.
Yeah.
We're the ones on the planet that can use ration and reason
Right.
and grow. And like when you think
Yeah.
about all of that, do you really want nukes?
I know.
I mean, do you really want,
Yeah.
like, we have had this
Yeah.
opportunity through millions of years, billions of years of evolution, millions of years as humans, and
Yeah.
we've had this opportunity to grow and develop technology and do all these things, and like, we could possibly go extinct
Yeah.
because of ignorance. And
Right,
that's what
right.
that's what it is. We're gonna
our
go,
biggest threat.
you know,
Yeah.
and it's really scary. I mean,
Yeah.
and I'm not trying to be I'm not. It's
No,
it's
it's
not.
not-
It's not like I'm
yeah.
afraid of that.
Yeah.
It's just I would be really disappointed.
It'd just be sad.
It'd be
You know?
like all this for nothing.
And what if there
You
is
know?
some intelligent being out there, and what if that being gave us the brains we have, let us evolve into the creature that we are, in order to do something, really even more amazing that we've done
Sure.
so far? It's like that's what I think about. It's like
Yeah.
I don't believe that some being, if they exist, I don't believe that some being exists to give us these powerful brains and this beautiful ability to evolve, but not want us to use it,
Right,
And
yeah.
want us to just live and just like, okay, that's what you say, all right.
No.
Yep. I'm gonna plug my ears.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gay bad. Okay. Don't make sense to me. Okay. Like that doesn't make any fucking sense at all. You know.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy. So, well, let's talk just a little bit more about what you've got going on and what you've got coming
Yeah.
up and stuff. Because I know that I really wanted to talk about Timesuck, but this has been awesome talking
yeah,
about
man,
all
it's
this
so
stuff.
much fun. This is every I feel like podcast for me though too, because I get so passionate about, and then like when I get somebody who also is passionate about that same thing.
Yeah.
All of a sudden it's like, oh shoot, 2 hours have gone by. We didn't
I know,
even talk
right?
about that. But yeah.
Yeah, well, this is like, I'm really glad that this is even a thing, and I'm super glad to connect with you because I've like obviously been a huge fan of Timesuck for a while, and
Oh,
I'm a
thanks.
huge fan of your comedy too.
Oh, thanks.
But and so it's really cool to talk to you. And the reason I've been a huge fan of you though is because I can tell you're passionate about these things. You know,
Yeah, and getting more so. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's like I wait when I was younger, like working on recording like a new special sometime at the end of this year. We don't have a date locked down.
Uh-huh.
But when I was younger, there were certain things I thought that I just didn't feel like I had the weight, maybe I don't know, like I didn't give myself permission to say things because I'm like, what do I know? I'm 25 or whatever. And it's like, but now I've had all these years to really think about it through Timesuck. I've met a lot of people like, no, man, that makes sense, and give me a little bit more confidence. And now I realize how important it is. Where I used to worry about offending let's say somebody who's really sensitive to certain like religious feelings or whatever, you know, and I was worried about upsetting them, so I wouldn't share my ideas. But now that I've shared more and more of my real ideas on like Timesuck, I find out how much that matters to people, and they're like, "Oh, thank God, someone else out there thinks like I do."
Right.
And I'm stuck in my little town.
And they think the same way that you did, right?
Right.
I mean, they feel like they can't talk about it,
right.
especially
exactly.
Yeah,
and now they have
especially with
permission.
religion. Yeah.
And you know, and I don't want to like keep targeting that. There's a variety of other things.
Sure.
You know, it could be just like you're not a redneck in a town full of rednecks, and you're like, I don't think these other people are bad,
Right.
and you're around a bunch of people like, fucking, they don't fucking look like me, you know. And
well, and like to that point too, though,
Yeah.
I think that the other crazy thing is I don't think people get enough credit for themselves, you know, like
to give themselves permission to be themselves.
Yeah, because like you're saying, like in these small towns and like a lot of people, I think, have different thoughts than what they put on the table.
Oh, right,
you know
right.
what I
If you
mean?
really trich them, if you shared it,
and if
true.
and like even these shitty ideas, like the unfortunate part about where we are in politics right now is it's so polarized that if you let's say that you identify as a Republican, if you say something that's centered, all of a sudden they're like, what the fuck? I thought you were this.
Exactly.
And then those people that are saying things like that,
right,
they probably don't even feel that way. Like they, and it's like this whole identity.
We're all hiding our real thoughts and and lately, but I've just realized from the emails we get through Timesuck all the time that it's important for me to not hold these things in and share these things, because now I don't worry about the people I'm pissing off. I am more interested in the people that I'm empowering and the people I'm making feel good, that there's other people like them. Like I was in New Jersey last week, right outside, like not too far from New York City, but I remember I was doing this new like anti-vaxxer, pretty angry stuff about ignorance and stuff too, and definitely walked some people from the show. Some people got up and left during the show. Also after the show, can't tell you how many like doctors, professors, and not even just that, welders or whatever, people who have those thoughts came up and also said, thank you. Yeah. Thank you for actually saying that. Yeah. We deal with this bullshit. I have a big pro-teacher section of my act that's like, the gist of it is, if your teacher thinks that your kid's causing a problem in the class, the teacher is now to get your kid. Highly unlikely. Yeah. We used to trust teachers, now we don't. Right. I'm like, if your teacher thinks that your kid is a disruptive piece of shit, your kid's probably a piece of shit. Yeah, and if you don't understand that, it's because you're also a piece of shit. Right. And it's like, and you're perpetuating the cycle of just shitty human behavior. Yeah. And teach so many teachers after shows like, thank you for saying that you appreciate what we do, you understand the fight we're trying to fight. Yeah. And it's just emboldening me, I guess, to, it's like I do think about my kids. I don't want them to live in an idiocracy. I want them to live in a world where critical thinking is appreciated, and used and implemented by the majority of people. I want them to see robots do amazing. I want us to reach all these cool places for them, and we don't get to do that if people who think like I do continue to be silent, right? And continue to be like, okay, whatever, man, that's fucking dumb, but just go ahead. Yeah. And now I'm very comfortable being like, all right, you can believe that, but it's super fucking dumb, And that's not an opinion; that's a fucking fact. Read the goddamn books, and that kind of attitude where it's like, it's not, I'm not gonna hold my opinion because you didn't study in school as hard as I did, right? It's like I cared about learning when I was a kid. I remember like when I was a kid in high school, I remember this one guy being like, "What do you even care about this?" It's just, I was studying for a test. And he's like, "What does it matter?" I saw him 10 years after we graduated at the reunion I went to, and he was working at the local drive-thru, like doing this, and I wanted to almost walk up and be like, "Hey, dude, this is why I fucking cared." Yeah. He was still partying at the same place he'd been partying, 12 years earlier. Still doing the same shit, just drinking beers out in the woods. Yeah. And it's like that's why, man. Totally. That's why. And it's like, we could do so many beautiful things. I have such a, as I get older, I love humanity more in so many ways, and I just love that I think there's so many people out there who want to do such amazing things and can do such amazing things if they stop being worried about the ignorant horde and what those people are going to, fuck those people. Yeah, fuck them. Do amazing shit. Take us further, If we get far enough, more people will join those ranks. Be out there with your opinions.
And don't be afraid to like march forward no matter what people are saying,
Right. And, look at history. That I love about Times, all the historical podcasts we've done. time and time again, you see the same patterns over and over again where it's like, whether it's Nazi Germany, to use like the biggest example, but like so many other like regimes throughout history where people didn't stop it when it was a terrible idea initially, Pol Pot or whoever.
Right.
And, and they let it get out of hand and then it was too late. And then a lot of people died.
Yeah.
That's happened over and over again. It's like we are capable of that. And people fall into that false security. We're like, well, it doesn't happen anymore.
Yeah, I know.
That's not happening right now here, but it could easily if we're
we've only been around for 300 fucking years. Look at how many, like the empire of Egypt and how long of a time span.
Exactly.
And how many
Millennia.
times they fell and came back and fell and came back. And this is like, we've only been a country for like less than 300 years.
Yep.
That in like...
You got to fight to keep it good.
Yeah, in Earth time, that is like...
Nothing.
But humans only think in their like little tiny little window,
Oh, yeah. It's that constant cycle of like one generation will have it terrible.
Right.
And then the next generation will be reminded of that by their parents. But then the third generation is like, things have always been good.
Yeah.
It's like, no.
Yeah.
And then something terrible happens again. They're like, well, how did this happen? We should have listened to your fucking grandpa.
I know. It's like the vaccine thing again, to bring it back to that. Because like 30, 40 years ago, these things like really started to cure things.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, like, oh, we don't have to worry about disease anymore because it's not here.
Not a problem.
It's not a problem. I never got a flu vaccine. I don't get the flu. And it's like...
Diseases are over. Check.
Yeah, I know, right?
And then they're like, let's not get our kids vaccinated.
Stop doing all that. I think they're just trying to poison us. Humans live way longer. They're way more intelligent. They have a way higher standard of life, but they're just trying to kill us. I
know. I think about that with chemtrails. I was joking about this with somebody recently about the chemtrails conspiracy.
Yeah.
I'm like, so let me get this straight. So chemtrails, they're poisoning us. And they're sterilizing us. And they've been doing this as part of this Agenda 21 platform since the mid-'60s now. Right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I mean, that's what it says. Well, then why are they so fucking bad at it?
Yeah, they're terrible.
The Illuminati is the worst organization on Earth in terms of following through on their plans of constant death and harm.
Yeah,
it's
I know.
like
they're trying to depopulate the planet, but they're not doing a very good job.
I see people living on Twinkies and Big Gulps for a long time.
Yeah, no shit.
Right? They should be dead.
I know.
If the chemtrails were getting them.
It is really bizarre because like that's the whole thing. Like with flat Earth, at the end of the day, it's like, why do you think this? Like, what is their reasoning behind doing this?
Right.
Why are they lying to us about this?
Yeah.
And they're like, control. And I'm like, okay, what's the difference between the Earth being flat and a globe? Like, what?
Right.
I mean, if the Earth was really flat tomorrow, and NASA came out and they're like, we're just fucking with you guys. The Earth is flat. This is all projection.
Yeah.
I would be like, wow, that was interesting.
Yeah.
And I would go on about my day because it has zero effect on my fucking immediate life.
That's with conspiracies. If there's no logic to it, and that it kills me with these people.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, so what's the agenda? A lot of times, like you said, they don't even know what the agenda is, really, other than control, some vague word.
Right.
and then one of the reasons I heard for the flat Earth conspiracy was, well, NASA is getting all this Illuminati money.
Right. I know.
And I had a military contractor listener write in, and basically. This one theory is that there's an ice wall surrounding the flat Earth that they don't allow anybody to come because then people would know it was the Illuminati and NASA and blah, blah, blah.
I've heard that one too.
Right. Well, here's the quick way to dispel that one. The main thing I heard with that one is that NASA basically is the main culprit, that they're in bed with the Illuminati.
Yeah.
Well, in order to keep that route, so they're taking all this money. I think it's billions and hundreds of billions of dollars to go to NASA. Well, to make this money. Well. To do a military perimeter around the entire flat Earth, this military contractor broke down all the numbers for me. Like, this is how much money it takes to guard 2 miles, kind of like if you're doing a border wall.
Yeah.
This is how much money it takes. And now imagine that around the perimeter of the entire flat Earth. The annual operating budget for a military perimeter surrounding the flat Earth is roughly $75 trillion.
I'm sure.
Our annual operating budget as a nation is less than $5 trillion.
Oh, yeah, totally.
So they're operating at a huge loss. This is a money pit.
Yeah. And
it doesn't make any sense.
And the other thing that doesn't make any sense aside from the monetary part of it, but I mean, like seasons, like if the sun does do seasons and you can watch videos of Antarctica, which you can, and it's always day during a certain part of the year.
Yeah.
If it's always day in Antarctica and Antarctica is just a big fucking wall around the planet,
how
fast is the sun going around in a circle so that it just looks? And then why does it look like it's moving slow? Yeah. And if it is moving slow, then how come the rest of Antarctica is still light? And it's like, you know what I mean? I have yet to see someone like I mean, because I've spent way too much time researching this,
Yeah,
and so
yeah,
I have yet
I
to
love it, yeah.
see anybody one time mention the seat, like the actual. I mean, I've seen models of how it could be,
Right,
you know,
right.
but it still doesn't make sense with the sunlight. I mean,
Yeah,
it just
yeah,
because
no.
Antarctica really is day 24/7,
Right.
during part of the year,
Right, exactly.
So
yeah, same with the northern ice cap. Yeah, exactly,
yeah.
exactly, because the tilt of the Earth. But it's the real problem with so much in the world is, and there's just no nice way to say it. It's just people who aren't that smart refusing to accept how dumb they are. You know, it really is a thing where it's like and like for me, it's like I feel like I have a pretty healthy perspective of who I am. People will joke like sometimes after shows like, "Oh man, Cummins 2020," and I'm like, "No, I'm not smart enough."
right,
Like I'm aware that I don't have the intellectual capacity to run a nation.
Yeah.
There are many people smarter than me, and I'd be like, nope. I feel like I'm smart enough to recognize the intelligence of other
Right,
people. Where it's
yeah.
like that guy's real smart.
Yeah,
I'm
and-
smart enough to know how smart he is.
Yeah.
He should be running things. But
Yeah.
most people, they can't do that.
Yeah.
Most people, no matter how fucking terrible they did in school, no matter how little they study as an adult, they have this attitude of like, well, fucking, I know my stuff.
Yeah. And they
No,
keep
you're
on-
dumb, dude.
And their mom the whole
Yeah.
time was like, "Oh no, you're a genius, Johnny.
Right.
You're you should be president one day."
It's like, no, like that whole thing of like, tell the kids they should be astronauts and have them dream. Tell
Yeah.
some kids that.
Yeah.
Tell the kids to have a shot at that.
Yeah.
Tell the other kids, you know what? Target might be good for you. You know, where it's like, and we always like that always comes across as such a mean thing, but it's true.
Yeah.
It's like there was, you look around at the kids in school. When a small class in Riggins, there's like 25 of us, 23 graduated. One or two of those kids, I'm like, all right. They also, and since then I've seen it play out right. There was a few of us who have gone to have things where, I don't know, have achieved a certain level of success in some field beyond just like base worker.
Sure.
Everybody else in the class did not.
Yeah.
And I knew that when I was 15 years old.
Yeah.
Because you look around like, this guy doesn't fucking question it. He doesn't care. He just wants to, he doesn't give, there's no light behind the eye.
Right.
And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're a terrible person.
No, yeah.
But you shouldn't. There's a whole new bit I'm going to start working on the next week I'm out about how if I could change the voting system, it would be based on IQ.
I have said that on this podcast.
Have you really?
I swear to God.
It makes sense.
Yes,
where it's
it
like
makes sense,
the
yeah.
guy with the moron
Yeah.
level IQ,
Yeah.
his vote
Yeah.
should not count as much
Yeah.
as the woman with the genius level IQ.
Yeah.
She, like the person who has like studied politics, who listens, who looks at both sides,
Yeah.
who has a 150 IQ, their vote should be like 500 times more valuable than the person who can barely, like I talked to a guy at Jimmy John's a while back.
Yeah.
And again, there's no way to not sound like a dick saying this, but it's truth. I wanted him to deliver a sandwich to my hotel from Jimmy John's. They
Yeah.
were delivering, and I was giving him the address. And he was like, so what's the address? I'm not going to try and do his voice because then I'll sound like I'm doing this horrible caricature and stereotype. But I knew he was not intelligent when I started talking. And I was like, let's say it's 1415 Washington Street.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, okay, it's 1415 Washington. Hold on. Hold on. And it'd be a long pause. I'm like, okay, what was the address again? 1415. Hold on. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Waited a while. He's like, 1415. I'm like, yep, 1415. Washington. How you spell that? It's W-A-S. Hey, hold on. And then he'd be like, W-A. And, this guy might be a wonderful person. He might take care of his mom who's sick. He's not an intellectual.
Right.
He is barely intellectually capable of delivering turkey sandwiches from Jimmy John's. That he's maxed out.
Right.
That's tricky. That guy cannot understand complex political issues the same way someone who has a doctorate from Columbia can.
I
and
think-
people who don't understand that, you're part of the fucking problem.
Right. And I think that we have a little bit of evidence right now that
Right.
that
Oh God, that's a whole other thing.
I know, but it's like but there's evidence that that's
Yeah.
true. I mean,
Yeah.
So I know it's really interesting, man. Well, so why don't you talk about some of your upcoming tour dates and
Oh, yeah.
stuff like that, just so that we can get a little bit of promotion out of this.
Sure,
thing.
man. Thank you so much. I mean, I know this has been such a fun conversation. I would stay longer, but
I totally understand.
I'm a
Yeah.
rare weekend when I'm home to go do a date thing with the wife.
Of course,
But
yeah.
I'm going to be touring all over the country. It's the Happy Murder Tour is the name of the tour because I do think a lot of violent thoughts.
Yes.
I don't want to actually carry them out, but they help me de-stress.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of people I kill in my head. And Yeah,
We're like brothers.
Helps me get through the day. But I'm going to be all over the country doing those and some live podcasts. We got Madison, Wisconsin coming up, and then Philly after that, Philadelphia, Salt Lake City after that, Nashville after that, I think, and then like Atlanta, Birmingham, Huntsville, and then all over the country. A lot of California dates, a lot of every place, really. Kansas City. I can't even remember. All
Do you have
over.
a website for this?
Yeah, dancummins.tv. All the tour dates that tickets are out for currently are on the website.
Great.
More dates will be added as the ticket links become active.
Yeah. And what about your podcast and how can people find you on social media?
Timesuckpodcast.com. You can find me at Dan Cummins Comedy on like Instagram or Facebook, or you can find Timesuck Podcast on Instagram or Facebook.
Awesome.
We do Twitter too, but honestly, we just bounce it from Instagram.
Yeah, I'm terrible at Twitter.
I'm doing more of the Instagram and that, but it's we got a nice growing listener base, and it's funny, as opinionated as I am here, I don't throw a heavy dose into each episode intentionally because I just want people to learn. I don't want to turn away too many people.
You're really good at that, man. You're really good at keeping that. Just for maybe listeners that haven't heard his podcast, like he's really good at he has a topic every week. And he researches the topic extensively, and then he talks about the topic extensively and gives a lot of details and a lot of facts that they're really well researched.
Thank you.
And then talks about them with a funny slant, and then but I mean, you're hilarious in the way that you do it. But it's really cool that you don't really get off into bashing ideologies or anything like that.
I just want to raise the game for everybody.
Sure,
it's like I don't care if you're liberal, I don't care if you're conservative, I don't care if you're religious, I don't care if you're not religious. Whoever you are, whether you are the janitor or the president of a company, your life will be better the more you learn.
Absolutely.
You will be able to apply knowledge that you gained from history, from the mistakes of other people, from just getting the most facts you can in your head. It will seep in. It will start to show itself in unexpected ways.
Yeah.
You'll be happy. I truly believe you'll be happier. You'll raise better kids.
Yeah.
You'll just make a better life for yourself. I mean, we do have listeners that write in to listen to Timesuck for a couple years now that were inspired to change their careers, take a chance on a different relationship, come out to their parents, whatever.
Start a podcast.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Start a podcast, start charity organizations.
Yeah.
We donate more and more each month to charities. February this month, we're giving $1,600 to the Cancer Research Institute. To just fund, immunology. I can't remember. Immunology. Thank you. Based, cancer treatments.
Wow.
And last month we did. Oh man, I'm terrible. The Pew Research Foundation, journalism.
I saw that.
Just to promote better nonpartisan research.
Yeah.
But I just want to make the world smarter, and that's coming from a guy that I don't have some doctorate. I don't have a master's.
Yeah.
But I just do know
we live in Podunk, Idaho.
But it's just important to learn.
Yeah.
It's just important, and if you can make learning fun, which is what Timesuck does, it shouldn't be a chore.
Yeah.
It should be something people look forward to.
And
that's
the
what I'm trying
cool
to
thing
do.
about this, the coolest thing about this is the topics that you research are really, really cool and interesting, but it's you give so much information that people don't have time to look into.
Right, because I understand their lives are busy.
Right,
yeah.
So their lives are busy, and if you want to know about, I think most recently you talked about Mothman.
Mothman is this week, and then actually coming out in a couple days is the plague, the bubonic plague, Black Death.
Yeah, so that's something that I'm sure a lot of people would find super interesting, but they might not have the time or interest. It's not interesting enough to look into.
Yep.
So if you dedicate an hour while you're in traffic or something to listen to your podcast, then you can learn about something that you might not have ever even thought about knowing something about. And it's just, it's really great. So
thanks, man.
Thanks for your contribution, and I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah, thanks for having another great podcast in Coeur d'Alene.
All right, thanks, man.